1936. Sure seems a long time ago. Let me see. I remember that was the year King Edward of England gave up his throne and became the Duke of Windsor for the love of an American girl. Shirley Temple was already a veteran movie star at the ripe old age of 7. Haile Selassie's flight completed Italy's conquest of Ethiopia. And civil war broke out in Spain, which became a testing ground for Nazi and fascist military equipment. 1936 was also the year I bought the car. A lot of mileage sure has piled up since then. But I still remember driving it home for the first time, just as if it were yesterday. I was as proud as a peacock, positive that everybody I passed was admiring my choice. And I sure handled it like a baby that first day. I was afraid every other driver within a block of me was itching to carve his initials on one of my fenders. Well, I finally got home without getting a complete nervous breakdown. Hi, Ken.
Oh, hello, Tom. Say, is that a new car?
Yep, just got it today.
Ah, it's a beauty.
Well, the folks have been after me for a long time to get a new one, so I dropped by the sales room and traded in the old jalopy. Here she is. Hey, you, what's the big idea? What are you trying to do, wreck that car? Why, this is a new automobile. You think they grow on trees? Get that thing out of here. Some people have no regard for other people's property.
Ah, dry up.
It's Dad. He's got the new car. Hi, Dad.
Oh, Daddy, Mother, it's here, it's here.
Oh, gee, Dad, it's super.
Oh, it's gorgeous.
I'll say it is. Can I pick 'em or can I pick 'em?
Look, it's got a radio.
Sis, turn off that radio. Do you want to kill the battery? Junior, take your foot off that starter. Holy smoke.
Tom, you'll have the whole neighborhood out.
Well, he might have ruined it stepping on the starter that way.
Oh, Dad, I made sure it was in neutral.
Never mind.
It does look nice, doesn't it? Such a lovely color.
Does better than 20 miles to the gallon, and what a smooth-running motor.
How fast will it go, Dad? 90?
Oh, these seats are so springy.
I think a darker shade of upholstery would have been better, darling.
If that isn't just like a woman.
Let's all go for a ride, Daddy.
Okay, hop in.
But I'm not dressed up at all.
Well, you look fine the way you are, Madge. Besides, you'll be in the car. What difference does it make?
All right, just a little ride then. Come on, sis. You get in the back with me.
But I want to ride up front.
It isn't safe. You know your father needs plenty of room when he's driving.
Say,
Hey, Dad, can I drive? I know how.
what? I should say not. This motor's hardly been broken in yet.
Oh, gee whiz.
Here, Sambo, come on.
Hey, get that dog out of here. Do you want him to ruin the upholstery?
But, Daddy, Sambo always rode in the old car.
In the old car, maybe, but it's going to be different with this one.
It seems to me that's what you said when we got the last one.
Well, this time I mean it. I did mean it, too, and lived up to it for a while.
Where are you going?
The gang's waiting for me, Mom. We've got a tough ball game on this afternoon.
Did you polish the car?
I'll do it when I get back.
You know what your father said to you this morning, Junior. You better polish that car right now.
But gee whiz, Mom.
Go on. You can play ball later. You better do a good job, too. You know how your father will check up on it when he gets back.
Oh, all right.
I guess I made life miserable for the kids for a while. Why, if Sis so much as put her feet up on the seat, she got a blast that pinned her ears back. Time went on as it has a habit of doing. A lot of things happened during the next few years. Some of them pleasant to remember, some of them not so pleasant. For example, in 1937, the Japs began their long-planned offensive in China. We got mixed up with them, too, when they bombed and sank the U.S. gunboat Panay that same year by mistake. On top of that, Hitler marched into Austria the next year. We all held our breath, but then it looked like things would quiet down after Chamberlain flew to Munich, fell for Hitler's phony promises, and told the world he had achieved peace in our time. The opening of the World's Fair in New York in '39 took our minds off European troubles for a while. Come to think of it, baseball history was made that same year, too, when the New York Yankees became the first team to win 4 World Series in a row. But the big news of that year was Hitler's invasion of Poland. That really touched off the fireworks as England and France declared war on Germany. All during 1940, the Nazi war machine rolled roughshod over Europe. Things looked blacker and blacker. And over here, the National Selective Service Act was passed as America began to build up its armed forces. President Roosevelt asked Congress for $1 billion for national defense. But even so, most of us weren't worried too much about getting into the war. We were getting a lot of use out of the car, too, those first few years. We piled up plenty of pleasure driving mileage. Mileage that hurts plenty now. In good weather, we used to go on picnics pretty often. Used to make a lot more trips to go swimming in those days, too. And what a treat it was to start out on a vacation trip in a car that was in tip-top shape. But of course, we got a lot more out of the car than just fun. Day in and day out, rain or shine, it carried me to and from my job. Many's the load of groceries that the missus has driven home in it, and it really took a beating on some of her shopping trips. One evening, Madge and I went off to the movies together. We didn't enjoy the picture very much that night because something happened on the way. Yep, you guessed it. The first bump. And after all the lectures I'd been giving Madge about careful driving, did I get the horse laugh. The damage wasn't much, hardly more than took the paint off. Things went on just about the same as the years went by. The daily grind at the job, the yearly vacation trips, summer joyrides, weekend visits. The mileage kept piling up, but I was letting down on having the car taken care of. Didn't worry too much if the oil wasn't changed on time or if I didn't get a grease job every month. And I'd almost forgotten about things like the battery and the spark plugs and the air cleaner. Matter of fact, as I remember, I was beginning to toy with the idea of turning the car in for a new one. Along about the same time, we began to run into a serious problem at least a couple of nights a week. It'll probably sound familiar to a lot of you.
It's awfully warm this evening. Don't you think some ice cream would taste good?
I guess so. Say, what's a 5-letter word meaning Brazilian eagle, beginning with the letter C?
Beginning with C. Oh, I don't know. But I'll be thinking about it while you get the ice cream.
Hmm?
It won't take long. The car's right out front.
I guess so. I suppose I won't get any peace if I don't.
Say, Dad, can I have the keys to the car?
Well, I was just going to use it to get some ice cream for your mother.
But, Dad, I'm awfully late now. I promised Gladys I'd be over to pick her up before 8.
Now listen, son. When I was your age, I didn't have a car to run around in. Why, I used to walk 9 miles to school, and it was good exercise. Why, I remember when I was courting your mother. We used to go for long walks in the evening, maybe take a trolley ride.
And we'd get some ice cream.
Yeah.
But, Dad, Gladys wouldn't ride on a streetcar. Oh, please let me have it just this once.
Dad, you're not letting him have the car tonight. I told Mother this morning I needed it.
What for? To take that bunch of sorority saps of yours to some jukebox joint?
It's none of your business where we're going. Besides, you should talk. the way you moon around with that stuck-up Gladys Arnold.
Don't you speak about Miss Arnold that way.
Miss Arnold, indeed. I don't know why I should try to educate you anyway. May I have the keys to the car, please, Daddy?
But, Dad, I've got to have the car tonight. It's important. Why can't Sis and those other kids use the bus?
Because you had the car last time. Mother, make him let me have it. You promised.
Now, wait a minute. It looks like someone in this family is going to do some walking. And it's not going to be me. I don't remember who won the battle that time, but I do know who lost it. The same one who always lost. Another year rolled around, and it began just about like the ones before. If you'll remember, that was the year President Roosevelt was inaugurated for his third term. Lou Gehrig passed away, one of the greatest guys who ever played baseball. His old team, the Yankees, trimmed the Brooklyn Dodgers in the World Series, 4-1. And Thanksgiving Day went back to its old spot on the calendar, the last Thursday in November. Over on the other side, things were going badly that year. Germany declared war on Russia, and if you'll remember, the Nazis really tore through the red defenses in those days. Over here, Congress passed the Lend-Lease bill. We didn't realize it then, but the war was getting closer and closer to us. I had something else on my mind, a new car. The new models looked mighty good. I found myself beginning to spend more and more time stopping to look at the ads as I flipped through the pages of the magazine. You see, the old car was beginning to get pretty run down. I'd been letting things slide for quite some time. Nobody could tell me anything about the oil. 2,500 or even 3,000 miles was time enough to change it. The chassis had to squeak its head off before I'd even think of getting a grease job. And when cold weather hit, well, I just had some antifreeze tossed into the radiator and let it go at that. But the old car was still running strong. Maybe a little noisy, a little banged up, plenty worn around the tires, but we still got around okay. I remember one lazy Sunday afternoon, Madge and I had just finished dinner. I was listening to a football game on the radio. My pet team was behind, but they had a drive underway.
The ball is snapped. It comes back to Ratkovich. He starts to his left. Now he's dropping back. Kelly is scooting down the far sideline. Ratkovich cocks his arm back.
Don, wouldn't you know that darn thing would quit at a time like this?
Ladies and gentlemen, we interrupt this program for a special bulletin. Pearl Harbor has just been bombed by Japanese planes. Let me repeat that. Pearl Harbor has just been bombed by Japanese planes.
Why, the dirty yellow rats. Well, you know what that started, what we all went through after the country went to war. We tightened our belts to conserve food for our boys and our allies. We did without new shoes for longer periods because the Army needed lots of leather. The government called on housewives to save waste fat. They asked for our blood to save our boys' lives, and we gave it gladly, those of us who could. As the need to make things last became more and more important, Madge began to hold her breath every time she used her electric iron. Even Junior showed plenty of concern about the radio, didn't overplay it because tubes were almost impossible to replace. Every time I used my electric razor, I wondered if that would be my last shave from it. Sis felt the same way about her dwindling supply of silk stockings, handled them as if they were made of cobwebs. But the biggest worry of all, you guessed it, the family car. Remember all the things that happened back there beginning in December 1941? First, the tire freeze 3 days after Pearl Harbor. Then tire rationing on December 30th. and my tires had plenty of mileage on them even then. On New Year's Day, 1942, came the car freeze. 1942 models were rationed starting February 2nd, and the same month all passenger car production was stopped. Oh, sure. I'd been meaning to turn in the old jalopy right along, but I missed the boat like everybody else. On February 19th, as the rubber situation got steadily worse, the government even clamped down on tire recapping and retreading, calling for a priority rating. Then came the government's plea to turn in all spare tires. Gasoline rationing went into effect, with the punch card system May 12th and with coupons on July 9th. The 35 miles per hour wartime speed limit became law. Replacement parts became scarcer and scarcer. Well, all of those things worried me plenty. Maybe we were covering less mileage, but those slow speeds, shorter trips, more stopping and starting didn't do any good. I began to see more and more articles in the papers and magazines about the need for more and better care to make cars last. It all bothered me because the old car still got plenty of use, and all of it important, too. When Junior and his pals weren't piling in old lamps, toys, pots, rims, and Lord knows what else for the scrap metal drive, Sis and her gang were using it to collect waste paper for the war effort. Not to be outdone, Madge pitched into Red Cross work, and of course that meant more work for the car. The carpool idea of sharing the ride helped a lot, but it seemed to me we still depended a lot on our old jalopy. For instance, there was the day when the car figured in a big event in our lives.
Goodbye, son, and be a good soldier.
Goodbye, Mother. So long, Sis.
So long.
Let's go, son. Another year rolled around. Of course, with our boy in the thick of it, the war was really getting all our attention then. That year saw the desperate all-out Nazi drive against Russia thrown back. City after city retaken. Also the second prong of the Nazi push. Along the north coast of Africa, some of Rommel's Africa Corps was destroyed. Some captured, the rest chased into the Mediterranean. The first successful step in the invasion of Europe was made through Sicily. And with it came the collapse of Mussolini, the first of the bullying, bragging dictators. And it wasn't long after that before Italy was knocked out of the war completely. That made it 1 down and 2 to go. But the 2 that remained was still plenty tough. In the Pacific that year, it was hard going to drive the Japs out of the islands, out of Attu and Kiska in the Aleutians. Despite our success on both battlefronts, we knew we still had a long struggle on our hands. As wartime mileage kept piling up and the car kept getting older and older, I began to worry more and more about it, about making it last. Of course, everybody didn't feel the same way. Take my next-door neighbor, Ken Spencer. I remember one evening we were chewing the rag about the automobile situation.
Oh, that's a lot of bunk, Tom. Spending a lot of money on an old rattletrap like my car and yours?
Well, I don't know, Ken. I've never had to hang on to one car as long as I have this one. And from the looks of things, I'll have to hang on for a long time to come.
That's where you're wrong. Now, mark my words, there'll be new cars on the market any day now.
I sure wish you were right. But wishing for a new car isn't going to do any good if the old one gives up the ghost.
I'll take my chances on that. Anyway, you won't catch me throwing a lot of money down the sewer. And I'll bet my car will stand up just as long as yours will at that.
Ken was wrong. I don't think it was more than a week or so later when he had to substitute shoe leather for tires. Well, that made me doubly anxious about my car, particularly because I was finding it tougher and tougher to get any work done at my old dealer's place. Well, suppose I run it right down there so you can change the oil and give it a grease job. Well, sure, I know you're busy, but after all, the car really needs... Now, wait a minute. Don't pull that same time next week gag on me again. After all, I'm no stranger. I've been doing business with you for years. Okay, well, there I was, with a car that needed more and better care than ever before. And I couldn't get it from a dealer who'd been getting practically every cent's worth of my business for nearly 10 years. That evening, talking it over with Madge, I found she was running into the same sort of thing with some of the retailers she'd been dealing with right along.
It just makes me furious, that's what it does. It isn't the fact that he hasn't much meat, though I'm beginning to have my doubts about that, too. But it's the way he treats me. You'd think I'd never bought anything from him before.
I know just how you feel, Madge.
Well, I've seen perfect strangers go into that place and be handed a package from under the counter. But when I step up to be waited on, he has the brazen gall to tell me he hasn't got a thing. And whenever he does sell me something, I think he was doing me a favor. That's what annoys me most of all.
I'm getting the same kind of a runaround with the car. It's bad enough you can't get a lubrication job, but it's the simple little things like, well, for instance, if you want water, they say, there's the bucket. Air for the tires? Sure, help yourself. And the windshield, they act as though it would bite them if they wiped it.
In my book, people who treat you like that are out in the future. Why shouldn't we buy everything we need just from those people who are doing the best they can for us now?
Sure. Why shouldn't we blacklist everybody who's taking advantage of us today, pushing us around?
I'll put that butcher right at the top of the list.
Yes, and I've got a half a dozen dealers that are in the same book. I'm so fed up begging those guys for service that I'm going to try my own hand at taking care of the car.
What you doing, Mr. Evans?
Huh? Oh, hello, Willie. I'm just greasing my car.
What?
I said I'm greasing my car, or at least I'm trying to.
Can I help you, huh?
No, you better go away, Willie. You'll get all messed up.
What's this for?
What's what? Oh, that's a grease gun, Willie. Put that down. Put it down, Willie. You'll get all dirty. Oh! Oh, now look what you've done. Well, these last couple of years certainly changed a lot of things for the better. When you stop to think what happened, the way the war went, the invasion of Normandy in 1944 spelled the beginning of the end. The Nazis held us up for a time there, but remember how Patton broke through and slashed across France? The second landing in the south of France was another great squeeze play that paved the way for the breakthrough all along the German border. The stage was all set for the big push in 45. The first thing you knew, our boys were crossing the Rhine and the Nazis were in full flight. Germany and everything it stood for was crumbling fast. The handwriting on the wall became clearer and clearer as we smashed city after city in the great victorious drive across the enemy's homeland. A drive that finally brought us face to face with our Russian allies who had been driving through from the opposite direction. The end of the war in Europe. Like everybody else who had a boy or someone else dear to them over there, that was a grand and glorious feeling. The day Germany quit. After that, we saw things get hotter and hotter for the Japs as we began to throw everything we had at them. And we sure had something big. The atomic bomb, the most devastating instrument of warfare ever conceived. We used just 2 of them. Remember? And then the Japs folded in a hurry, quickly sued for peace, sent high-ranking officers scurrying to MacArthur for terms of surrender. Then we really celebrated. After 4 long years, it was really over. And then came the day that so many Americans had hoped and longed for, VJ Day. The boys began to come back from the battlefronts. Madge and I checked the lists of every transport as they were published. Then finally came our big day. I guess maybe the biggest day of our lives. The day our boy came home to us for good. I met him alone at the station. Madge didn't come. Said if she did, she'd probably weep all over the place.
Well, what do you know? You still got the same old car.
Yep.
You know, when I think of all the good times we used to have in it. How's she running, Dad?
Not so good, son. After all, let's see, it's 9 years old now. It certainly was tough trying to get it taken care of right all during the war. But I'm really worried about it now, with another winter coming along. Still has to last us quite some time, you know.
Well, it better last long enough to get me home anyway. You know, Dad, it's great to be back.
Great to have you back, son. Yes, that was a great day. A really great day. And it led directly to another happy event that took place not so long afterward. One of my boy's buddies came home to visit us, and the first thing you know, the old car got a different kind of facelifting as we fixed it up for my new son-in-law and my daughter to take a short honeymoon trip. Seemed like a long time ago since I used to scold her for putting her feet up on the seats. Well, it's still rolling, still carrying me to work, still hauling the groceries for Madge, and playing a part in almost everything else we do. The mileage is really getting up there now, a lot more than I've put on any car I've ever owned. Still, from what I can gather, it'll have to last us for another year, maybe 2. Who knows, maybe more. Right now, and for as long as it does have to last, what I'm looking for is a dealer who'll take good care of it. And now that I can get all the gas I want whenever I want it, I'll keep looking for the place that gives me what I want. The windshield wiped, the tires checked, the oil looked after, the battery inspected regularly. All the things my car needs to keep it rolling. That's the kind of service I want. And I want it with a smile, too. From a dealer who appreciates my business. One more thing. When I find that dealer, I'll stick with him. Even if his place isn't the handiest one for me. He'll get all of my business, and that'll be plenty from now on. Especially when we get the new car, what with the trips Madge and I have planned. Here's one man's car that'll keep coming back to the dealer who gives me the kind of service I need and want.